Hey everyone, this is Three Questions with Richard, Scott, and Jessica. Yeah, Richard's moving. I like it. All right. So, hey, this is actually the first time that I've actually had three people on the podcast, and we'll kind of talk in the other podcast on why the three of you are connected. But I actually appreciate you're all from the Southern California. We were talking basketball, a little Kawhi, right? A little Kawhi before. See, I got the little Kawhi sound ready to go. So it is. It's so awesome to connect with you, and I know that Scott and Jessica are from Roland Unified. And hey, I was at Roland Unified. They're super nice. So I'm gonna do the preemptive shout out.
Hey, I was gonna call for that. I like it. Yeah.
So Roland, hey, everyone from Roland, I really enjoyed my time with you all. It was amazing, and you made me feel like $1 million. And so I remember distinctly that day with you. And I feel like Scott and Jessica, I feel like I know you. I feel like we met that day. I don't know if we did.
We probably rushed the stage.
Yeah. Absolutely. You killed it, man.
Now you're making fun of me. Okay.
No. You killed it. You inspired all of us. Absolutely.
Right. Hey, I got one for that too.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not.
See? I got that one too. I got all the TikTok sounds. I told you. All right. So hey, we're gonna do three questions, and so we talked before, and we're gonna kind of split them up. So Richard, we're gonna start with you, and we're gonna talk more about your book, Building the World's Greatest High School, which is not high school specific. And you even told me go back and rechange the title because of how applicable it is to all schools in the world. And we're going to talk more about that in the other podcast. But we're going to start with the first question. When you think about a teacher who inspired you, in your career, maybe as a student, who's someone you think of and why?
The person that probably had the greatest impact on me was my college baseball coach, John Scalinas. I know that Scott's a wooden guy, and I know you are as well, George. But John Scalinas didn't necessarily get the press that Wooden did, but he was the same type of man, very simple man, but had a great impact on others, and people would follow him. Probably who I am today is because of him and the interaction that I had and the beliefs he instilled. Strong person of fundamentals, strong person of faith. And not only had he impacted me, but the players that played for him as well. And it was more about not necessarily the game, but what we learned is that it's more important what you do outside of the lines than inside of the lines.
And John's, I don't know, John Scalinas, is he still with us today?
No, he's not. No, he's not.
So John, this is a little like the impact you have lives on, obviously in others, which is, really fundamental. It's actually something you said. I actually just wrote about this, and because of a teacher, my football coach really instilled in me something that you just said. And I think, when we talk, like we often talk about teachers, and I really appreciate you sharing because of the impact so many coaches have had on us. He said the idea of like, I remember just wanting to like be the captain of the team and thinking like, I actually deserve to be captain because I have put in the years. Mm-hmm. Right. And he was new to the school and he's like, well, that's not how this works. Right. Like you have to be someone worthy of following. You can be ready to lead all you want, but if you're not actually worthy of following. And that was something that instilled in me. And when I actually coached, I would say to my team every year, I'm like, look, there's only one team who's going to win the championship. We're going to strive for that. That's the goal. But if we measure success based on that, we're likely to fail. But if we measure success on how we, are to one another, how we treat other people, so I really appreciate that. So, and it's kind of amazing to see that impact because I know the two administrators that we have in front of us, have that impact, and as many people in Roland Unified actually do. So, Jessica, I'm going to actually go to you. You are brand new AP. How's that going so far, by the way?
It's as steep a learning curve as I expected it to be, probably a little bit more. So every day's new. I've always been somewhat of a night owl, and these days I just crash at like 8:30, just done. So
that's
absolutely.
Good. That's good. I think it's a little bit like you're probably like teacher tired on a Friday, but every day now, because it's like, hey, you're going to be AP during COVID. It's just like see how many obstacles, right, we can put in front of you.
Definitely an interesting year to start this journey.
Yeah. And so, hey, and so Jessica, I know I told her you can't say Scott because she works with Scott as the principal. So she totally wanted to. That's what he's like, please.
No, I give him a hard time. I absolutely.
I know you do.
Yeah. So my question.
So your question is like, when you think of all the administrators that you've had connections with, that you've learned from over the years, who's someone that stood out to you and why?
It would definitely be my administrator, my principal, the first year I started teaching. So I remember down to specific minutes in the first interview when I was applying, first year teacher, super, super nervous. But the principal's name is Frank Chang, and he has served as my mentor, my guide, everything for the last how many years. There was just something in the way he prioritized things. I just felt like he saw all of my strengths and just kind of reminded me constantly that I had to keep my eye on the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. And so it was, you feel seen when you're in front of him. You know what I mean? You feel valued. And he's the name that stands out constantly. I'm always reminded of the way Frank did things, the way Frank ran his school. Everyone mattered there.
Well, I hope, Frank, do you still talk to Frank?
I do.
Is he enrolling as well?
He was in Roland, and he is in a nearby district now. Okay, Frank, if you are listening. So that actually, I already know this. This is what's happening right now. People are listening to this podcast and like, seriously, that happened in her first year? Like, it took me about like 3 principals before I felt something like that. Right? So let's be honest. Like a lot of people feel that. I was blessed to have an amazing principal later on in my career. But as I look back, it's like, I think part of it too, and this is, kind of speaks to like, Frank's impact and, obviously the impact that you both are having as well at your school, is that I always try to look back and say like, hey, you know what, this principal, they did this amazing thing for me. They did this amazing thing for me. But sometimes when you're in that moment, you're like, well, I didn't get this, and this, right? But then you kind of look back, you're like, hey, they all had, different impact on me. So for anyone listening to you, I think it, just like Frank did for you, I know this is going to be maybe a little controversial. We have to do that sometimes with our administrators because we can always pick apart the things that they do wrong. And, a lot of times teachers say, well, a principal doesn't understand my job because they haven't been in the classroom anymore. I'm like, well, maybe you don't understand the admin job totally because you haven't done it. So like, really, if you really think of it. So, as much as we want administrators to look for strengths in us, we got to do that, for the people as well. And so I'm going to say, before I get into the connection, to Scott's answer here, watching you two, I actually really reminds me of when I first became assistant principal. My partner, his name was Archie Lilico, and Archie, if you are listening, you get one of those too. So that's right. Scott, you love that button, hey?
You know what? That button.
You want one? You want
absolutely.
One? Okay, I got this. So Archie, actually, I kind of feel like I can feel the respect you have for each other, but it's playful, and I love it. It makes me feel good because Archie and I would like rib each other all the time, but we always had each other's backs. And I could feel that when talking to you too. So Scott, you look back at your career, you look back on the impact that you've had on so many. So if you could go back to your first year of teaching and look back, and I always say this, right? If you don't look back with a little bit of embarrassment, you're probably not very good right now, right? So if you look back on your first year of teaching, what advice would you give to yourself?
So I appreciate the embarrassment comment because we talk about that all the time.
Right.
And I'm like super embarrassed what I did yesterday. So thank you for mentioning that, because we want to continue to be embarrassed.
Right.
And I think we do a great job of calling each other out on being when we're embarrassed. But if I can go back to that first year self, it goes back to exactly what you just said about impacting students, impacting lives. I would tell that first year self that there's a ton of power in you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of power that as I think back, my 24-year-old self didn't understand. I didn't know how much power I had and how much I'd be able to empower others. I knew that relationships mattered. I knew that I wanted to be a positive impact. I'm still in contact with people from my first year as a teacher, for some of my former students. I wish I would have been better for them. I wish I would have helped to get them to see their greatness, probably more than I did, and just remind my 24-year-old self, or tell my 24-year-old self that there's nothing that can replace like just a strong work ethic combined with a strong moral compass. And so those two things, if I can just talk to that young dummy from 20 years ago, I think those are the words that I'd give them.
So here's actually, and I think this is a really pertinent point to this, right? If you were that bad that those kids wouldn't talk to you, just as a little heads up, right?
No, I appreciate that.
Like, man, you sucked. But we still would like to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
And this is something I really believe in. Even at sometimes on our worst days, right? And sometimes the days that we make mistakes. When we look back at some of those years, if you cared about those kids, you'll always have an impact, right? Mm-hmm. And you can see that there's no way they would still connect with you, right? And I joke about it myself, right? Like I honestly didn't know, like, really, like, I didn't even know where to find the curriculum. I just like, hey, here's a textbook. So obviously I'm assuming this covers it. So, right. And I'm doing that, but like, I still connect with many of those students from that class, and they talk about the impact that I had on them. And I think that's something, that shares. So because you love it so much, I'm doing this for you. Shout out to Scott. No, hey, it was awesome. I am like so pumped to go jump in, hear about some of the things that are happening at your school. But it was amazing to sit and talk with you. But everyone, thank you for listening to 3 Questions. I hope you enjoy it. Make sure that you'll see Scott, Jessica, and Richard's information in the description down below. Make sure you connect with them. Obviously, wonderful people. So thanks for being here today. All right. Have a wonderful day, everybody.